I think if people were to sit down and play it single player, they'll find that it's fun. And then they'll play it multiplayer, and they'll find that it's fun too. Ag Aonuma. This is Legendary Adventures, a Legend of Zelda playthrough podcast. And this is a bonus episode for Season 10. Regular listeners will know that I completed my playthrough of Four Swords Adventures in single player. I did have my wife Mandy help me check out some multiplayer features like the Tingle Tower and Shadow Battle, but otherwise it was single player, and that was going to be where I left it, as I moved on to prepare for Season 11 on the Minish Cap. But my playthrough for that season got interrupted a bit when I had to get my Nintendo Switch repaired. So I decided to return to Four Swords Adventures and play through just a couple levels with Mandy while I was forced to pause on the Minish Cap. That resulted in this episode, which was not previously planned. As I've explored this game through both my experience and hearing from others, I've come to the opinion that if you really want the best experience with Four Swords Adventures, you should play it in multiplayer. I get the impression that ideally it is played with a full 4 players. I don't have that option right now. I own only 2 Game Boy Advances and 2 link cables, and I don't know anyone else who has a Game Boy Advance and link cable of their own to join in. So it will be just me and Mandy. I also wanted to use this episode to make a couple of corrections. In the second episode of this season, I stated that the levels did not change between multiplayer and single player. Turns out I was wrong. I did not have the multiplayer experience at the time to tell me otherwise. And if the material that I was reading stated otherwise, I overlooked that information. But YouTube user Pina Serafina pointed out to me that there actually are some differences in the layouts between the multiplayer and single-player games. I tracked down a Nintendo Power Player's Guide that I had not consulted prior to preparing for this episode, and I discovered that it did detail a number of changes between the single-player and the multiplayer experience. So I'm going to go over some of those changes from the guide, and you'll also hear some opinions from me and Mandy through the couple levels that we played. Again, this is not a full multiplayer playthrough, just for timing reasons. I decided to tackle 2 stages with Mandy. We played Lake Hyrulean and the Eastern Temple. I picked Lake Hyrulean because it's the opening stage, and I thought it would be good to let Mandy play the tutorial stage to get a handle on some of the basics before I threw her into a potentially more difficult stage. We wound up having to play through the first stage twice because I neglected to hit record on my game capture. Viewers on YouTube will notice that the video does not necessarily match up with the audio. Because we were playing on 2-player mode, we were limited to only 2 formations, horizontal and vertical. While more limited in the number of formations we could use, they were still essential for playing. We're going to push it into the river.
So we need to be side by side.
Yeah, so you need to tap L, get your guys into a wide. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, he was kind of next to me. I thought it was...
Yeah, but he won't actually do it unless you're in the formation. The differences between the single player and the multiplayer for this stage were minor in terms of the stage layout, but there were some additional mechanics that changed up the feel of things.
What is this thing?
Oh, a question mark. I didn't know those.
What do I do with this?
Pick it up and throw it. Among the additions were question mark crystal balls, like those seen in Shadow Battle. Players pick up the crystal ball and then throw it to get a semi-random item.
How'd you get a horse?
I got the crystal ball. I didn't know that you got crystal balls just like on regular stages.
Stop squashing me!
I didn't mean to. The items match what is found in Shadow Battle. There are carrots which summon horses for temporary invincibility, chickens which steal force gems in this game instead of hearts, bomb chews, and one that I did not come across when playing Shadow Battle, a small red force gem. Another new mechanic that is only available in 2 and 3 player games is the ability to steal an extra link. This can be used to mess with another player and slow them down. Mandy stumbled on this feature just before the players meet Tingle in the first stage. Lee, you stole my link.
I don't know how I stole your link. I picked him up on accident.
Well, I need another
Where
link.
Where do I
down
go?
Here. Jump in the water and under the bridge.
Okay.
You need to form up and lift this rock, but you stole my link.
Hey.
Well, how do I steal my link back? Players can steal another link with the press of the R button. It took me a couple of tries to get my link back, and we would occasionally steal links from one another while playing, mostly by accident. Competitive players could make a game out of it, however. In terms of stage layout, there is only one difference in the first stage. It comes midway through after players scale the waterfall. At the top, they find a second waterfall with 3 caves behind it. Players head first into a cave on the right, then into the center cave. In a single-player game, players can walk through this center cave. There's a switch to press to extend a bridge, but it's easily accessible on the near side of the pit, and it forces players to continue to engage with the mechanics used to separate the links. In the multiplayer game, the switch to extend the bridge is on the far side of the pit, meaning one player needs to lift the other and then throw them across.
Pick up a friend and toss him to the other side.
Hey,
Oh no.
I
I don't know how I do that. I'm sorry. Oh, I was trying to throw you over.
I was trying to pick you up.
Okay, you pick me up. Go for it. I'll stay here.
Once on the other side, the player who was thrown over the pit needs to stand on a star switch and extend a bridge for the first player. If they move off the switch, the bridge will disappear.
Oh.
Nope, keep standing up.
Sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry about that.
There is a second one that requires links to stand on 4 floor switches. One set of switches is reached by tossing players over a pit. Another change is that players are scored at the end of the stage. Players' scores are based on the number of force gems they collected, the number of enemies they killed, the number of hearts the player had at the end of the stage, and the number of times they died and had to be revived. I won when playing the first stage.
You won. We know you won. I'm the loser, my friend. That's all I got.
I don't think you are.
I lost. Look at me, all defeated over there.
I didn't see a thing.
You did. In fact, you recorded it this time.
Let's quickly go over some other changes for the other 2 stages of level 1. The first is the Cave of No Return. In the single-player game, players find a bow and a treasure chest with a blue bracelet near a ghost. They have to throw a link over a pit in order to grab them. In a multiplayer game, according to the Nintendo Power Guide, players need to step on floor switches in a box formation to reveal the bow and the blue bracelet after getting over the pit. In the third level, Hyrule Castle, Phantom Ganon's Dead Man's Volley has some extra complexity, in that the energy ball changes colors, and it needs to be hit by a link of a matching color. I suspect that this makes the fight more difficult. Both Vati and the boss of Death Mountain in the original 4 Swords engaged in similar matches of Dead Man's Volley. The group that I played with in Season 8 found it difficult to do the color-coded volley, specifically when we were fighting Vati. It became very much not fun. I suspect that it would be the same here in 4 Swords. When it comes to level 2, the Nintendo Power Guide does not highlight any changes to the first stage of the coast. But I did want to point out that YouTube user Mersaloon pointed out that the giant bombs are potentially a more threatening challenge in a multiplayer game. Players can dive into caves and Game Boy screens separately, but actually switching screens on the TV requires all players to move together. So there's potential to hold other players up and to potentially screw them over as you're playing with them. The Village of the Blue Maiden doesn't provide enough Rock's Feather items for all players to have one. That means players need to carry extra links over the hole in the long house in order to push the barrels, create a bridge, and advance. I also had Mandy visit the Eastern Temple with me. This is the third stage of the second level, and I thought it was kind of a highlight of the single-player game. It also seems to be a stage with more dramatic changes compared to the others.
This one's probably going to be a lot harder.
What? Okay.
So this is a dungeon stage.
Oh no.
The major changes start in the central room of the dungeon. You'll recall that this room has branching paths. There are doors to the east and west, and ultimately players are trying to get through a door to the north. This is also where I need to make another correction from an earlier episode. In the second episode of this season, I stated that only the west wing was required to be completed. Playing it through again, I realized that both wings do need to be completed. When writing the episode, I overlooked that there's a lantern in the east wing that is needed to open the door to the north. In the west wing, we find a cross-shaped room with a block in the center. This first forces us to go north to get a moon pearl. We then head west to get a key. The room with the key has a surprise hidden in a treasure chest.
Oh no.
Giant bomb!
Ah!
You gotta go to the Game Boy screen to not get blown up.
I don't know how to do that.
Go through a hole.
We use the key to head south, and we use the moon pearl to open a moon gate. In the multiplayer game, the moon gate is color-coded.
Okay, only you can go through that portal.
Why only me? Because I'm red?
Because you're red and I'm not. So you're going to have to pick me up and carry me.
The player who can enter the portal has to carry the player who cannot through a cannonball obstacle.
You're going to dodge the cannonballs, and you're going to move up to the right.
More cannonballs? Are they on the... Okay, wait. Your cannonballs look different than my cannonballs.
Yes, you have less to dodge. That's why you're carrying me.
We reach a side-scrolling area based off the side-scrolling item rooms from the original Legend of Zelda. It holds a bow. Mandy grabbed the bow, and then we backtracked towards the central room, though Mandy did have a little trouble with the portal to the Dark World.
Am I supposed to go back in?
No, come out.
How do I come out?
Just walk back in. Is the portal still there where you are, or do you have to cross the room again?
You have to cross
You
the
gotta cross the room again. Yeah, on the other side and walk back.
Okay.
Right near the moon gate, there are a couple of eye switches. I told Mandy to shoot them, and it revealed a treasure chest with a blue bracelet. After that, she had a little trouble with the moon gate again.
You got a blue bracelet. Okay.
And you go back.
Aw, shoot.
You really like doing this.
I don't mean to. I see the color and I'm like, oh, that's where I'm supposed to go. I've been programmed to match colors.
Eventually, we did make it back to the central room. The puzzle to extend the bridge and reach the door to the north is different in a multiplayer game. There are eye switches that need to be shot with a bow in order to extend the bridge. In the single-player game, these switches are located on the east side of the pit that players are trying to cross. Players need to enter a door to the north to enter a Game Boy Advance screen, which takes them behind an opening on the west side of the pit. They then shoot from the Game Boy Advance screen to hit the eye switches on the other side. In the multiplayer game, the player who passes through the door to the north presses floor switches. These in turn make blocks on the east side of the pit disappear. The other player can then stand in the empty spaces where those blocks used to be and shoot eye switches that are now on the west side of the pit. That extends the bridge. But the door to the north is shuttered close, and it requires 2 torches to be lit in order to open. The lantern is found in the east wing just off the central room. The east wing features another cross-shaped room, but rather than a central block limiting movement, players are prevented from backtracking by elevation, and prevented from heading south by a locked door. Players need to start in the room to the north and defeat Wizrobes. They make a quick trip to the Dark World in order to get bombs.
Okay, there are 4 switches over on my side. To a horizontal, and then you press R to grab on.
That did what?
Any bombs appear.
We then go through the door on the east and use those bombs to blow open cracked walls in order to find a key. I found the key in a side-scrolling area, and then we backtracked and went south. Through the door to the south, we go through an extensive sequence on the Game Boy Advance screen. Players need to navigate a maze-like area by finding doors hidden behind vines and cracked walls. Mandy was the one who found the lantern, while I missed details on my original Game Boy Advance screen.
I know how to do things. Look at me go.
Oh, you're good.
Woohoo!
I just have a hard time seeing some of this stuff since my screen's not.
Yeah, you do have a dark screen.
Returning to the central room, we light the torches outside the door to the north and head up. In both the single-player and multiplayer games, we then reach a trap room which features flying tiles. But the layout of these rooms is different. In the single-player, it's a large, mostly open room. Players pass through it and reach a door to the north. In the multiplayer game, it's a smaller room with 3 alcoves on the northern side. Each alcove is filled with force gems, and each one is blocked by a spike barrier. That is, until the flying tiles have been cleared from the room. Mandy discovered the way forward on accident when she went for the biggest payday in the central alcove.
Okay, well, we go in here and... Oh, I fell in a thing. Oh, I'm in a hole. Okay. I think you have to fall down that hole or I can't get out.
Okay, here I come.
Down the hole, players work together to push a large block to reach a staircase. We didn't find the big key as we played through. It seems, based off the Nintendo Power Guide, that the key has been moved to slightly earlier, and is now behind a bombable wall, located at the top of the staircase from the large block room. The boss, Argus, is also given a slight multiplayer twist. It's color-coded now.
So I have to hit the red ones? And the green
so
ones?
there's holes in the floor we gotta fall through that have boomerangs in them. And then we gotta use the boomerangs to pluck the small rocks off of it.
While only players of a matching color can pull a small rock from Argus, the fight is otherwise more or less the same as a single-player fight. Players of either color can destroy these small rock eyes, and then all players need to work together to defeat the boss once those are all cleared. When the scores were tallied at the end of this stage, Mandy came out on top.
Look at you!
I won because
You're
you're
the
nice
winner.
to me.
No, that's all
Yeah.
skill, obviously.
Oh no, it is not all skill. That might be the biggest lie you've ever told.
To level 3 now. The Nintendo Power Guide says in multiplayer, players need to work together to properly line up a shot on eye switches in the first stage. In the second stage, the timing on hitting the Helmarock King when its head is inside a hut is tighter, meaning a player will have to stay inside a hut in order to land hits while the other players throw bombs outside. In level 4, the guide says that Malon will have more than one heart during her escort mission. The second stage, the Swamp, seems to be one of the more dramatically changed stages. The guide says there are more holes for players to fall into, hidden under gravestones in the graveyard area of the stage. It seems that the hole which holds the bow has also been moved. Players need to use Rock's Feather and a bow together to clear one of these new caves. It seems also the entry to the Dark World to access Dompe's house is limited, and players will have to carry any links who can't enter the Dark World over a water obstacle near his home. In the third stage, the infiltration of Hyrule Castle, there's a puzzle just before the boss room which involves lighting lanterns. It is highlighted as being different in the guide. There are 4 lanterns available. At least 2 links will be able to collect and use them. In the first stage of level 5, the Lost Woods, the guide notes that players will have to cooperate to hit crystal switches simultaneously due to a lack of formations. Also, the Dark World portal to meet Deki is color-coded, meaning only a link of a matching color can pass through. In the Dark Temple, a room with a moving platform, a turtle enemy, and 4 switches is apparently completely different, and now requires players to split up to tackle both sides of a divided room. It also appears there's a couple color-coded moon gates, including the rooms with the hint-dispensing Deku Scrubs. In the Desert of Doubt, the guide notes that all players must have level 2 Pegasus boots in order to cross an obstacle that requires players to move slowly together in order to travel west. In the Desert Temple, the timing on the crystal switches which transform the dungeon and introduce sandy floors is tighter. While in the Pyramid, all players need to obtain level 2 Pegasus boots to advance. The boss fight against Moldorm also apparently has a multiplayer twist with 2 moon gates. Through the moon gate, players will find a floating skull, and when a player with a hammer hits the skull, it apparently makes Moldorm briefly freeze, allowing other players to easily get in hits on the weak point. The guide does not note any multiplayer changes for Frozen Hyrule. In the Realm of the Heavens, it notes that one player can stay behind in a high wind area in order to hit the crystal switches that turn off the wind. All players will also be required to get Pegasus boots in order to cross the color-coded walkways in the stage. In the Dark Cloud, the guide highlights some moments of cooperation, but they honestly don't sound too different from the single player, other than it requires more coordination between multiple players. For the Palace of Winds, the guide notes that a player who hangs onto Pegasus boots can cross a gap and claim large force gems that are dropped by the 3 Gomas fought roughly midway through the stage. The guide suggests that the fight with Vati requires more cooperation. One player apparently has to shoot Vati in the eye with an arrow, before another player uses the cannon to hit Vati with a downward thrust. In the final fight with Ganon, the guide notes that the energy balls that are fired by Ganon during the segment when players are teamed up with Zelda are color-coded, again likely making the fight more difficult. That's it for the changes noted in the Nintendo Power Guide. There could be more, but apparently they were not deemed significant enough by the editors of Nintendo Power to note.
So, what did you think?
It was fun. It was very puzzly, that last section to find the lantern. You know, lots of like, okay, you gotta go this way, and check this one, and did you check this one? And oh my goodness, there's like 5 doors in every room, and you can check them all, and most had something for you, a treasure chest, a gem, or something. But also, it got a little long.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know where I'm going anymore. I've been in too many rooms. I'm not keeping track very well. And some of that might just be because we're playing after our kids go to bed. So, you know, it's late at night. I've worked. We've taken care of children. All of those things. And some of it is just, it's a little complicated.
Overall, Mandy and I had a fun time during our multiplayer session of Four Swords Adventures. It's fun to work together through the game. We're not players who lean too deeply into the competitive aspect of Four Swords, but it just sort of naturally creeps in as you're playing. For example, in the Eastern Temple, after extending the bridge, there are 2 large force gems that players can grab. Mandy grabbed one and then moved to grab the other. I decided to try to keep her from getting it, and I stood directly in front of her. But Mandy just knocked me into the pit so that she could claim the gem for herself.
Your wife's the worst.
You're not. You're best.
I stabbed you and pushed you off of a bottomless pit.
Standing in your way. It's all good.
There's a little bit of that competitive edge, but also the cooperative. And it is a fine line to walk, because, you know, it's very easy to be like, well, I'm not going over to help you. You're just going to slash me. Like, I don't want that. You're just going to push me off a bridge into an abyss. Sorry.
No, you're good. That was fun. Like, you know, some of that stuff is fun when it happens and when you're doing it. And, you know, I was boxing you in to try to get it, and then you knocked me off. That was just fun.
I was just like, hey! And I pushed a button, and all of a sudden, boop, there you went.
Overall, it was a good time playing Hyrulean Adventure in multiplayer. I suspect the game is likely at its best in a full 4-player game, but even with just 2 players, we had a generally good time. Thanks for listening to this episode of Legendary Adventures podcast. Next time we will start the next game in the series, the Minish Cap. If you want to follow along, please subscribe. And a big thanks to everyone who's subscribed already. You are awesome. I am Paul Riley, and I will see you next week.
Wait,
Big
are you
one.
stealing all the gems? I can't tell.
Would I ever?
You always steal the freaking gems!